Good morning, everyone. We can see now that the attendees are online. Please just check with your sound system if everything works all right. If there is any issue, please write in the chat box to our colleagues who help us technically. In any case, I just want to welcome you to the webinar on human resources management about how to do PES, attract, develop, and retain talents. We will be presenting some interesting examples, but before that, just let me go shortly through the tools. We have two important tools that we will be using. First is the chat facility. You can use it to say hello or post comments. And we have also the questions and answers tool, which we would like you to use, especially at the end of each presentation, to ask the questions to the speakers. You can also upvote some questions that you deem the more important ones asked by the others, so that our speakers know which question to focus first. The thing I would like to present first is the agenda of our seminar. My name is Łukasz Sienkiewicz, and I come from the Institute for Labor Market Analysis. And we also have two presenters with us. First, the Evelyn Doornbos from the Netherlands PES, who will be presenting the presentation on human resources performance potential portfolio metrics, followed by questions and answers. And then Angelika Anlit Barrows from Norwegian PES will present about how to attract and retain IT talents on the basis of the Norwegian PES experiences. We will also have the questions and answers session, and then the conclusions and final reflections. I would like to introduce a bit to the issue of the webinar, because it is a kind of continuation of what have already been done by the European Employment Network of Public Employment Services. What we would like to focus on is to provide PES with some foundations for the practical development of tools and practices for strategic planning and talent management by providing two interesting examples. The issues that are really demanding, it is really very vital to know the potential of the talents that you have inside your organization, but it is also very demanding due to some labor market changes to attract and retain talented employees in your organization. So we would like to share some of the most successful examples among European PES. And this is done for two reasons. Practical reasons. First is to stimulate further discussion, but not only discussion. We would like you to use these examples and to practically develop also more effective practices in your own countries. We also have designed a few polls during this webinar for you to answer. The first poll is focused on the question, to what extent are the human resources management and talent management practices in your PES ready to face the challenges of the future? We will now share the poll with you, and please mark the most relevant answer to that question. Meanwhile, I will present some background to our presentations, because we have done quite a lot of work on human resources management in public employment services, already in 2018, and it comes from a real need to tackle the challenges of disruptive changes that are happening to the public employment services, especially due to digital transformation and changing work patterns that also affect public employment services. What we don't want to do is to direct employees anymore. We would like rather to empower the managers and give them practical tools to develop their leadership but also engagement of employees and trust, as well as some stimulating environment. I think what is really important is a kind of more forward-looking perspective. I think that talent management is such an approach that is really focused on more long-term strategic aims by two ways, I would say: understanding what we need and trying to develop practices that will give us the workforce of the future in terms of very agile approach. What we don't want to do is to predict an exact future, because, as you know, it is really hard to be done in practice. But what we want to do is to prepare our organizations for the possible different futures in terms of talented individuals that we need to bring on board to be able to deliver the services to society and to fulfill our promise to society. So it is really important to develop effective practices to give staff the competences that they need to be able to act in an agile and autonomous way in this complex environment, but also to prepare the leaders for the future that are able to be self-managing, work in teams, and make autonomous decisions. Definitely what is very often being said is that we want to move our organizations from fragile to agile, and this is important in terms of talent management in this new VUCA world, to give them more vision, understanding, clarity, and agility to be able to cope with these demands of the future. So if we don't start this webinar in a vacuum, a lot of work has been done in 2018 with the PES Network working group on human resources management. We have had a thematic review workshop and the thematic paper that I was developing on human resources management, how to attract, retain, and develop talent, which is available through the PES Network website, PES Knowledge Center. There has also been the follow-up visit to the Netherlands PES on talent management, with the summary report also available on the PES Knowledge Center. And also the key considerations paper have been developed with the key steps to be taken in the future in terms of proactive human resources management and talent management. We all know that talent management is really challenging. First of all, the talents are really demanding employees, and we know that public employment services in many countries are not really deemed the most attractive employers, which is sometimes really harmful for the attraction and also retention of talents. But we also know that talent management is a kind of perspective that needs to be really inclusive, that it is not really easy to develop such practices. So if we would like to now, I would say, focus on two interesting examples that will allow us to better understand this, especially under the surface characteristics of talents that are really important for our service, but also about how to attract and develop and retain IT talents which are really demanding. So let me now introduce the two speakers. I have already introduced their names and what about they will talk, but now we will move to first a bit of a summary of the results of our first poll, and then we will move to the first presentation of Evelyn Dornbos. So as you can see, we have, oh, I can't move it. Sorry. Yeah, the majority of responses is that the practices are somewhat supportive, but as, an important remodeling is needed. So yes, this is again the confirmation that our webinar is really needed. And let me now move to the presentation of Evelyn. Evelyn, please, can you show us how to better understand the potential of our talented employees?
Can you hear me? No.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. I am Evelyn Dornbos. I'm HR business partner for UWV, the PES Netherlands, and I will tell you something that we are doing now. My presentation, as you can read, is "Are your employees ready for the future?" In the PES Netherlands, we are now currently in an organizational development. And this is also the reason for us to look at our employees, because we want to get an idea of the extent to which our employees are ready for the future, and if they have the right competence for the new vision of our organization and our mission. So it's a lot to ask from our managers to do that. So we wanted to have a model that is very simple to fill in. So it's not a lot of work, but to get a good overview of your employees. Also, if it's not, I can show you the model later, but if a lot of employees are not ready, it's also very important to know what do we have to do to get these employees ready for the future. Let me see. There. So we have a strategy, and this is the model we overall use. And you see our labor market, the strategy of our organization, and which employees we will need now, and which we are needed later, and which employees we have present now. All this has to goes in a circle. So you have to know what do we need, the new influx, but also if we have employees who can't go with us to the future, you have to also say goodbye to some employees. And this is the model from the strategy I can't get to the word. and you see in the model also the numbers, and the numbers relate to here. So you have your key players, your employees with potential, and so on. And then we go to our managers and we ask them to fill in the HR3P matrix, the human resources performance potential portfolio. And with relatively little effort, you can use it to see how is your team and how is your department is doing in terms of performance and development. And it allows the managers to score their employees into two categories, their performance and their development potential. It's very important to know that the filling in of the HR3P matrix, it is not an assessment. It's an analysis of your team, but the outcome should not be a surprise for the employees. And it is always to look to the future. That is very important. Because otherwise it would be, it's not safe for the employees, if you know what I mean. When you fill it in, it's a method in three steps. It's determining the degree of functioning, determining the development potential, and performing a background analysis. If there is anybody interested in it, I have also many questions to trigger managers to look at their employees. So they go a step deeper than only look at the individuals. You have to also look with a helicopter view to your team. I also said fill in the matrix with an eye to the future. And it is very important, you know, where your organization will go to in the future. So you have to have a mission, a vision for the future. And you have always, when you assess it, your employees, you have to keep in mind the future workforce. It's very good overview you get from that. The performance matrix we make is looking like this one. It's in an Excel, and it has, this is the outcome. And the manager will fill in another, where all the names of the employees are. And he will answer the performance questions and the potential questions. And every employee will come in, for example, you have 3 employees who performs sufficient, but the employee, oh, I see I have something not good. Sorry. And the employee cannot be promoted. So you get an overview from all your workers in this Excel. And you see there are colors in it. And the colors are linked to another overview, and there you can see, this is an example what you can do, but if you have the color here, when you look I go to the red ones. This is if you have employees in the red one, then it corresponds with here things you can do for employees who are perform excellent. This is a example, but you can always put your own things here in. So if you have employees who perform excellent, you can go to coaching, you can go to a task broadening, to a growth program. If you have employees who are not, who can be improved in their performance, well, you can go and see what can we do for this employee. We can development them, but if they're not ready for our future and we can't develop them anymore, you also have to have an exit strategy. And so you get a nice overview from your team or your department. And we here in the PES Netherlands, the managers who fill it in, we always go in discussion with each other. So because the other managers see also employees, so you have a good overview of all your workers. Well, I hope it's giving a bit of a view how it is. Of course, if you have any questions, ask them, please. And if you want to know more, I have more things I can show or I can give to you for maybe if you want to do it something in your own PES. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn. Yes, we would like to now open the floor to questions that you might have. But please remember that while you are all in listen-only mode, you can use the question and answer function of the Zoom to ask the questions. Meanwhile, you can look at the second poll we have prepared. Which talent management practices aimed at meeting future needs of organizations do you consider most important in PES? If you can mark now the one that you think is the most important approach in public employment services. Do we have any questions already to the speaker? Please use the question and answer part of Zoom, the function. To start with, maybe, I will ask the questions, some question to Evelyn, if I can. I would say, what do you think? Should the approach to potential analysis be the same, or I would say equal, for talents or high potential employees and all other employees, or should it be diversified in a sense? Because the talent management can be both very inclusive, but this can also be quite exclusive approach. How do you do it in your organization?
Well, I think you should always look at the individual employee to see what the employee needs. But it is also very important that the manager and the employee are on good speaking terms with each other, because these two have to look what the employee needs to talent management to be developing in his function, but also if he's doing very well, to look for a new function. So you have to all. My opinion is you have to look at the individual employee.
Okay, I very much like your approach that also the employees that perform excellent are offered many supportive tools, because very often the support is only for those underperforming or with competency gaps. But this is not the approach that we should take in terms of talent management, because we also want to develop and support those that are already very good, right? Yeah, we have the question from the audience. What kind of trigger questions are useful for facilitating managers' thoughts on future requirements and competences?
Yeah, well, I have many questions. I don't have them now ready to tell them, because I have them in my other computer. But I can, if somebody's interested, I can translate them to English and I can send them to Christina or to anybody who wants to have them. Because the questions for the managers is so that they can think about not the individual, but you have also look to your team and what is needed by your team. So you have to develop a helicopter view. So what we see is the managers are not always have the helicopter view. So the questions help them to how do you call it, to develop that. Yeah, so I can if Christina wants them, she can have them, or I can translate them in English and give them to PES so that they can download them or anything.
Thank you. That is always very useful to see not only the presentations, but also to have some sort of more in-depth knowledge about this. We are still welcoming questions from the audience, so please write them if you have any questions. But I was also wondering, Evelyn, what do you do, I mean, in practical terms, to predict future needs in relation to employees' competences like knowledge, skills, behaviors, and so on? How do you know, I mean, what will you need in the future? Because this is very...
Well, we are, like I said, in organizational development. We want to get a broader PES, and we have a team who is looking at what our CEO wants, and then we translate that to what we need from our employees in the future. This is how we work, and then we make a function, and we put there in the competence, but also what we want to see from an employee, not only in skills, but also in how they participate with clients and so on. If somebody is interested, we have that also. I can also share that.
Okay, thank you. That would be, of course, very welcome. I think that there are repeated requests for translating everything into English and putting it on the PES Network website. So whatever you can share, I think it is very, very much welcome.
Yeah.
I can't see any other questions as for now. Have everybody answered the second poll? I hope everybody did already, so we can probably see the poll results now. All right. I think the most popular is the development of management practices aimed at increasing. Sorry, no, no, I read it wrong. I think the 7, is that correct? I mean, supporting lifelong learning and continuous development. Yeah, is the most important or the most important approach in your PES. I think this is very much in line with general also private sector approach, because it is important to not only develop talents but also all other employees, because the talent that individuals are most effective in teams as team players. But I think that there is no wrong answer to this poll, because all of these approaches are supportive, especially in terms of including development of different employees' talents, for example, which is now gaining momentum in terms of talent management, because we can prepare ourselves for the different possible unfolding futures, but also other approaches like those practices that are increasing agility and flexibility. I think these are all, in fact, important. We have, of course, forced you a bit to choose the most important approach in your PES, but I'm quite sure that if you had the chance to mark more than one answer, we could probably as well choose many approaches. Okay, thank you very much for Evelyn, for your very insightful presentation. And I think that there will be a chance that our participants also contact you with some further questions, and that you will share your translated materials with us. This is very helpful. Thank you again.
Okay, welcome.
And now we are ready to move to our second presentation of effective practices of talent management in public employment service, and the example shared by Norwegian PES. Angelica, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. And here, yeah. There we go. Yes, good morning, everybody. So my name is Angelica Barros, and I am currently here in Brussels with the European Commission as a national expert on behalf of the Norwegian PES, where I normally work. Last year, in 2018, I was part of the working group that the PES Network had on this topic of human resource management. I will be talking to you today about the rather remarkable transformation we have had in the Norwegian PES when it comes to attracting and retaining IT talents. And this is in a market where IT talents are very much sought after. I will give you a little background on the PES and where we came from before this transformation of ours started. So the Norwegian PES, we are 20,000 employees. We have approximately 490 offices, and 1/3 of the national budget runs through our systems. It's necessary to also emphasize that Norwegian PES is not only just labor and employment, but also pensions and benefits. So that's why we have such a high number of money going through our systems. But this means that we have at least 100 plus very complex computer systems. And we have a large database of personal information, and especially in this GDPR times, this is also important because it makes the picture of complexity even bigger. We were in 2015, the Norwegian PES were at a place where we were criticized about spending too much money on IT. And it was a time for reflection. Where do we go from here? And particularly also, what strategy will we take when it comes to system development? This was in a time where we definitely saw the digitalization and the automation wave come, and where we all are aware of the new world of work and all the changes, not just for the society that we serve, but also for the PES. We, with the basis in the philosophy of really needing to identify and needing to have the core competency for the future, we realized that having the new needed roles within ICT sector was also important and necessary for the Norwegian PES. So that meant highly skilled software developers, data engineers, designers, and data analysts stood out as very important competencies for us to have in-house. Because what we used to, traditionally had used a lot of contractors for the design and development, and then we had a big ICT department. At this time, in 2015-16, we had approximately 550 employees, and at all times up to 200, 300 consultants or contractors. But since I mentioned the fact that digitalization, automatization, our very regulated services that we do, and coming at us, we realized that we needed to have this in-house, and since we very much like all public organizations, very often the systems that we use are tailored for us. That means we are not going to go and buy a new Norwegian pension system somewhere else. So that led us to we were at a time for a change. So the Norwegian PES then taking full ownership of the whole digitalization process. I have mentioned here the four cornerstones of the new strategies for the ICT department. And the first one is the new sourcing strategy, particularly in the sense that we decided to no longer use so many consultants and contractors for what we had used them for. We needed to source the people in to our department instead. We also decided new ways of work, that we were going away from the typical waterfall, big releases system, a lot of planning, and then 4 releases maybe every year. And we needed definitely to cut costs, and we needed to get up to speed as the IT and the automation, digitalization now offered us much more smaller correction releases. So that led us into a need for a recruitment strategy. And this is in a tough market where IT people are very, very sought for, not just for public, but for all over, for private as well. So it was kind of like a stop, not a stop, but we had to stop up and really think, what do we have to offer? What is our vision? And what do we want to be? So, and then it's kind of like, what do we have? What do we have to sell, or what do we have to offer that is unique? And clearly, that is what we can, with a genuinity, go out and talk about and sell. So what we have a very clear mission. We are one of the pillars, or the corner pillars of the welfare society in Norway. And we work to get the people their benefits, and also to keep, the employment market running and working in a healthy social economy. So we spent some time getting clear and really taking ownership to our vision. We needed a genuine story to, as I said, tell and sell. And I know that sounds, commercial, to go and sell your vision, but it's, in a way, that is what you do when you attract, or when you need to attract people. You need to have something compelling to offer that people want to come to and dedicate, a lot of their time in doing. And so the next step was also in the strategy. I will come next, I will talk about what we actually did as well. But the next point in the strategy is that we needed to be more visible. Everyone knows who we are. I think because 75% of all the people in Norway deal with Norwegian PES at one point or another, but we need to be visible in a positive way. And we needed to be a lot in this, our focus, and since we weren't also changing the business model, it would be easy for us then to focus on the challenging, diverse, and the cutting edge work. And probably from what, or unless from what people think sometimes, that public organization maybe might have the perception of being a little boring work, but in this, we offer particularly complex work, and it's clear that, competent employees like that. They like being challenged, they like making things happen that maybe couldn't be done, etc. And in addition, we have a continuous need for system development, not diminishing in the future, but more increasing. And we really, we have a purpose, and we really focused on the cool, technical, demanding work with a purpose. So in short, that was mainly that's a strategy. So what the operationalization of this strategy, what would that be? And my first bullet point here on this slide is visibility. And of course, we needed a positive focus. And this is this leads us back to a clear vision that we have ownership over. Because we did a lot, as you see in the points under, we did a lot to get that positive attention. And to get attention, in general, but it doesn't matter to get attention if you don't have a really compelling message and mission. So social media channels were definitely important, as they are going forward, and we came from a weak point when it comes to that too. And the one example I put up is LinkedIn, which was probably the most important social channel for us. Went from 600 to 47 followers in a year or two. But we did also a lot of presentations. I should mention that at this 2015, we also got a new ICT director, which was very much out on conferences and really the first one carrying the message of the transformation. But it was also important to say that it was not just him, it was also key employees. We did articles and interviews, tried kind of a communication strategy that was quite aggressive. But we also invited to come and meet us. Yeah, and then simultaneously, we targeted higher education institutions for ICT, spent a lot of time just educating or talking about what is a Norwegian PES, why is it important, why is it an important part of our society, and also what are we going to do on the, you know, in the ICT side, and how exciting this will be to be a part of, as we will be working differently, and we will be using you know, advanced technology. Another very important channel, or how to find the candidates, were our own employees' networks. So there, your employees are in a way your best ambassadors. They can talk about their job, they can talk about what is exciting and what is challenging, and they can really, we really took use of the employees' networks. And in addition, as I said, it might seem small, but invested also in a lot of formal coffee conversations with potential candidates. And it's important to say that also managers, top managers in the ICT, took the time to do this. It was becoming more important than a lot of other activities, because then you really got a one-to-one with someone that you might possibly come work for. Ad campaigns we did, and most of them were towards senior candidates. As you can see, in the lower right corner, the headhunter with a crossover. So that means we did not use, and still don't, use headhunters. And the reason for that is, in a way, we wanted people or candidates and employees to come work for us because they wanted to, not because that someone had convinced them that this was the right thing. Because that could much easier lead to higher turnover. And what we see is the candidates are coming, they stay. But anyway, so headhunters, not even for managers. So, and then we realized, even though we are the best and biggest website in Norway for matching and finding employees, we still decided to do a new website. That this was not to drown in other ads, in addition, where we could put a little more information out. And since we decided that one of our best selling points were our social responsibility of being who we are in our society, we did name the website, as I said in English here, What Really Matters. And what is there, it starts with a message from the ICT director, and it really challenges you in a positive way to be part of something bigger that really matters. And this is literally the message that do you dare to be part of creating what really matters? And Norwegian PES is going to develop the world's best welfare system for you, your family, Norwegian PES, and the rest of our society. We are looking for people who dare to take that responsibility. So, in a way, what's on that website, it's clear, it's ambitious, And that is another thing that I think public service, and certainly we didn't dare to be ambitious. We didn't dare to use bold language on how important and how ambitious and how exciting this was going to be. But that's what changed. We dare to use language like private sector has used for a long time. And it's working. And the rest of the content on this, it's very limited, the content on this website, but it's a message, a short clip from 3 different employees. And then there's job vacancies. And when it comes to the job vacancies, it's important to also say that every single job vacancy start with one message from the ICT director. It's not the same, but there's like 3, 4, 5 different that states the importance. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat myself, but the message. Because what we don't have is that we do not have zillions of money to pay the best. So we knew starting this that we couldn't pay the most. And ICT and IT talents are pretty in demand. So there's, we know what happens when you're a function or a profession is in demand, the salary goes up. And we knew we could not match that. They are well paid, but when you think about what the top manager of the general manager of the Norwegian PES are paid, there is a limit that we have to stop at. And when I will say also when it comes to this is, it is a risk in the sense that because we have to go a little up in salaries, but we cannot go too far. So it's finding that balance and then having the compelling other reasons to coming to us, because increasing ICT salaries also have the effect on the rest of the organization, that it's kind of like it drives the rest of the salaries up to, and then we're coming to a unsustainable situation where we cannot afford it. But it created a lot of discussions in the organization. But I think it's also part of of the future of organizations, in the sense that these are really attractive competency that we need. And it's kind of settled. It did not turn into a big controversy and a big discussions. The unions are on board when it comes to this as well. So this is the result of the employee development in these years. I will not go into detail, but I will. But as you can see, we have gone from around 550 until 750. So it's an increase in at least 200, I think, these years. In the version of the PowerPoint where it will be sent out, these are unfortunately the Norwegian expressions. These will be translated so you can see. And in this graphs, you see the development for the different roles. I made one a little more simpler. In simple numbers, you will see from the other, I will go back. You will see from this one, you will also see support functions and management, the development in that. What I can say is that we have increased management as well, decreased support and advisors, and those who kind of had the roles in dealing with the contractors. But in general, these are, I would say, pretty impressive numbers that we have. We now have hired 120 developers of different kind, and we are planning to double that again in the next couple of years. Designers, all different designers, product designers, is also doubling. This is, I will mention that the designers are now one of the biggest professional, like collection, like it's really impressive in the scale of Norway, of course, to be 40-1. And this is because we also can see that the local offices, the local employment offices, will also be able to take advantage of these designers in finding new ways of working in the local offices. So it's definitely not just ICT related that they will be doing. This is a process that takes time. You will see here in this little square, these are the roles that are decreasing in numbers. So what do we see is the most important for the candidates and new employees? It's kind of the same that I talked about when it comes to the strategy. It's the mission. Helping the users and the weak in our society and being part of something more important and something as compelling as working for the Norwegian PES is. We have in HR for different surveys over the years always seen that our employees, that the mission and the importance of the meaningful work is always high when we ask what is important and what is not. But I don't think it's been so high in the ICT department as it is. Another very important thing is, of course, the possibility to grow using advanced new technology, having freedom to grow, develop, etc. And then in addition, we see this as the end user focus as very important as well. This and that's a new factor. It's always been important, system development, what the end user is doing, but the focus it has now is much higher and much more important for the candidates coming. And the other thing we see is, of course, the work method and the agile and autonomous way, flat structure. We are in a new way of work where self-leading and freedom to grow and contribute is important. Also the complex system and the database is very important. This is, of course, what our strategy to keep these people and develop these new employees has to answer to. So what have we done? On the I divided a little HRM, and then what have we done on the ICT? So these are the main parts of what we do in the ICT department with the new employees. There's a long newcomer program, 2 years long, individual development plans. We have spent a lot of time and energy in defining roles and a competency strategy. And we offer a lot of external and internal courses. E-learning, for example, like Safari Book, has been important because they gives everyone the possibility to go and learn about new technology. We do a lot of presentations and workshops, and also, like I say here, from external rock stars. If one of our new designers hear about someone American or Spanish expert in some field that are coming to Norway, we take the possibility to invite them in, both for our own employees, but also for external that can come and listen. We really want to give them the possibility to do those kind of things that we maybe have not been so good at earlier. New management styles is necessary. And I think there's a word missing here, but and we needed top managers to carry that transformation. We also needed many new managers that are very true to the value and the new ways of work. When I say a new management style, this means finding the balance of giving freedom and responsibility to your employees at the same time getting the job done. So it's kind of like been very challenging for the new whole set of managers. But we definitely look for managers that purpose is to be there and grow the others. I have heard top ICT managers introduce themselves. My name is so-and-so, and I get led by my department. So it's a very new way of looking at it. We use employees to present and give them the room internally and externally. Very focused on transparency and communication all around. And this is also new because as a public administration, we have had our rules of and routines of documentation and transparency and everything. But this demands a new openness. And we have set in place much more initiatives to applaud happiness and sharing, and a little out of the box. What we do on the ICT side is strong focus on the methodology. And as I said before, use cutting edge technology. Letting employees lead and be there. And this changes and also be kind of like the information source and the education source for the rest of the organization. These changes affect the rest of the other departments as well, and they need to know how is the new ways of work and how should we all learn together. There's a technical demo scene to share experience, and this is important for the ICT to use Slack for communication. We have created expert groups on different topics, and we scale out much needed expertise. For example, there's been a need for security champions, which is a part of a role in the ICT. We share that. We try to scale it out in the sense that they themselves share and share the knowledge. Just took this as an example. We went from a very typical line organization and to teams and to a new way of looking at ourselves. There's a lot more that I could have told about how this affected, like also, for example, the cultural transformation that has been having to happen, how it has affected and how we work with transforming the competency to those who were there before, but who has typical core competency that we no longer are going to need, and what do we do with them. But I'm keeping to the scope here for how to attract and how to retain. So those are all other aspects of this that if anyone are interested, they can just take contact and we can share that information as well. So that was what I had to say today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angelica. Very informative, very interesting presentation. So now we will launch the last poll for you in terms of what are the key challenges in attracting and retaining high-level talents in your PES. So you can also share with us your thoughts, but also let me move to the questions and answers section of our webinar. So please remember, if you have any questions to Angelica, please use the questions and answer part of Zoom to write it down. I think this was a very interesting presentation, but I will ask you a kind of maybe hard question, if you allow me.
Yeah.
What would you do differently if you were to start all over again? So what are the pitfalls on this road that you have not managed to avoid? What are the lessons learned from this practices that you've had over the last years?
I will say one thing first, that kind of like a pitfall. I think we should have spent, it's not directly to recruiting, but I think we should have spent more time communicating and the message to the rest of the directorate. So they were, so the other departments were kind of understanding what was going on. When it comes to the recruitment strategy, I think we succeeded pretty well. Maybe even more targeted ads would be one thing. But you have to remember, of course, we could also say, oh, we should have had the competency strategy in place. We should have had all the role definitions in place, and then we should have had like a plan for the 2-year newcomer program. We should have had all the manager in place, but that is the old way of thinking in a way. So we dare to start the process without having all the answers to all the next steps that we had to take. So
is now your IT department the best place to work in your service? I mean, the most attractive, because it seems like if this is a kind of special treatment department, don't you fear that you will create a kind of silo inside of your organization?
Absolutely, that's a good point. I'm not saying it is a silo inside our organization, but at one point it could seem that way, because everyone was like, why are they getting such high budget for ads for recruiting strategy? Why is the salaries there are better? They're doing much more fun things and so on. That was a phase, but honestly, it seemed like that both them. I'm not saying we're spending more money on recruiting to other departments, but it is spreading. It started there, and it was kind of hurting a little for a while, but now it's spreading because, and this is where the organization has reacted positively, actually. At the end, turned into a positive reaction, because then it has made them hopeful and inspired them, all the different departments and professions as well, to see, oh, they can do it, we can do it. So I think it's gained, all in all, very just positive momentum, but there are sensitive questions when it comes to salaries, and why do they have every other week they have like a big, making waffles in the auditorium. But in a way, I would say that the managers have taken that positively and turned it around for employees in the other departments, and just making every part of the Norwegian PES more attractive to work in. So I don't know if it's like the #1 place to work in the Norwegian PES, but yeah, I don't think we measured, but I definitely would like to say, first some jealousy, then turned into very constructive inspiration, and they kind of like paved the way.
We have a question from the audience. How do you manage to keep IT competences developing? Do IT competences quickly become antiquated? I mean, they are getting old.
I think in the way we do that is, one is to always have focus on the next, or what's new. What is a new technology? What is happening in the IT world? And we have been very important for us to have top managers that are very focused on that questions. That way, and also to send key employees and other managers or employees to fair conferences, around Europe, to bring it back, because it's very important for our new employees or IT and talents to keep developing. They are born, kind of like they are set to want to develop. So we really have to give them that opportunity and bring it to the Norwegian PES and open new doors for use of new technology with our kind of like old technology. But if we don't constantly have the focus on cutting edge technology, development, and freedom to actually learn something, we are losing them.
But do you also develop IT competences of non-IT employees? I mean, not in the department.
Well, that's a relevant question, because the way that the technology, or let me call it tech side of the business, and the professional or the other, like the business side, unless they work much closer together now, they sit together. You know, say like we just had a new platform for matching and for job vacancies and for CVs to match, you know, and developing that, the professionals in employment or in matching and the ones who work with our users literally sat in the teams with the technology. And what happens then is that they have to first learn each other's subject, kind of, or each other's knowledge, but then they gain a lot more understanding for each other's competency. And together, as a team, they complement and make a better solution for the end user. In addition to, so definitely, yes, we have had to kind of educate the organization about what's the IT, what's the system development is. So I would say, all in all, the whole directorate has a lot more understanding of IT and digitalization, automatization, and than we had before. And that resonates parallelly, you know, in parallel with the rest of the society.
Okay, we are still welcoming questions from the participants, so please write them in questions and answers. I would say that you have seemed to be very successful to attracting IT talents, but do you think that these practices can be, I would say, enlarged into other groups of PES employees, and how to attract also talents in all other parts of service? What works best and what would you recommend?
I think the biggest learning of all for us as a big organization is that the future of work really cares about the meaning of a job, and that we should really focus on what we are and how, you know, as a mission, as our function in society, we should really much more communicate that in and dare to in search of new employees. And in addition, as I said, you know, as a question was that came here, how do we keep them? We should also be more focused on developing and daring to, you know, giving freedom and to develop, so employees can be a part of the development of working better with the long-term job seekers, for example. You know, daring to do new things. I think it's just the new ways of working are spreading, and in a way, what's it called? You know, it's impossible to ignore for the future. And it's efficient. We're really getting things done. That's what we also can see. We are producing more, and we are producing better tools and systems that the end user is more satisfied with. And and we have a much more communication with the end user, our systems now. So much better feedback where they can fix it, you know, and so it's not wait for another half year until release in the summer of 2020, for example.
I think this is an important message, because we often hear from the public administration and PES that we are not competitive in terms of wages on the market, but I think there's much more that you can offer, and you have to focus on this offer make good employee value proposition that is not focused only on the money, because now, as you see, there is a change also in terms of what the talented candidates are looking for, and it is not only the level of wages that attracts them to a certain organization. So I think this is very important message. I don't see any more questions from the audience. Maybe there will be some more, but if not, we will move now to the poll results, if we can see them. All right. The key challenges, this is what we just discussed, right? The key challenges that, oh, sorry, it just disappeared. Oh, okay. Is the higher wages in private sector and inadequate practices of employees' motivation and engagement. I think this is so much relevant to what we have just said, but also what is visible is the negative employer image of PES and inadequate employer branding practices that is deemed challenging. Would maybe our speakers like to comment on these poll results? Maybe Evelyn, what do you think about it? I mean, from the perspective of Netherlands PES, do you also have the same problems?
I think in the Netherlands we have only a problem with management. You see that management we pay less than from the other sectors, so it is very difficult to attract good management, because the salary is much lower. For our employees, we don't have any problems because they get a good salary in comparing to the other sectors.
But what is really, I think this is a good information that if most of our participants who answered the survey do not see that there's a problem with managerial attitudes and practices that are not supportive for talent development. I think this is, I mean, it is sometimes easier to change the employer branding practice than to change the management mindset in supporting the talent development practices. So I think this is very interesting and important. I don't see any more questions coming in, but maybe you would like to share some final statement with the webinar for today. Angelica.
Well, in the sense of the poll, and I can speak at least from the Norwegian PES as a whole, I think the 53%, the higher wages, is very a big challenge. I've focused now on the ICT department, but as a PES as a whole, I believe the wages and the competitive, sectors and employers for our local counselors that's a big challenge for us. I think that's why we often attract them. They stay for a short time. So kind of like when they're really up to a level of competency, they move on because we don't have maybe a salary policy for that level. So I think that I see that must change. I think the more and more we automate, our services get automated with a new technology, new ways of work, and we will see what do we do with those crucial competency that is not digital that we need on top of the platforms. And I think there is where we are losing people due to higher wages in other sectors. So that's more or less the next step of the transformation of the organization, I think. But all in all, key employees or competency is so important. And we talk a lot about, digital transformation, new ways of work. In that as well comes a very, very competency, kind of like revolution, which is very important.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Maybe Evelyn, you would like to share some messages and or your thoughts on the seminar.
Yes. For us in the PES, it's very important because, like Angelica says, competencies are very important also with us. And we have lots of employees who are working 25 years or longer at the PES. And everything changes very rapidly, and this is also why we are looking for what we need for the future, and we see that some employees are having a difficult time to keep up with all the all the changes. So that's why it's very important to also analyze your team or your department to see what you need and what you can do to upgrade your employees and so on.
Thank you very much. It is really hard to digest all the information that you have provided us today. But I think we've had very good examples of your approaches. Probably it will spark more discussion and requests for further materials or clarification. But what we have learned is that the PES is not idle in facing the challenges of the future in terms of human resources management and talent management, and that there is a lot of practices and new developments going on in your PES that you can share, especially in terms of building really not only a positive image but also the kind of offer that is being perceived as valuable, not only in terms of money but about creating the change environment inside your organization. But what I really like is that most of these examples is focused on strong sides and positive sides of employees, not on the deficiencies of what we have, because this is a very common approach, unfortunately, that, for example, when we talk about development, we focus on what is missing. But I think that the future looking at talent management practices is first understanding what we are good at and what we can offer the employees, what we can strongly support in terms of the practices that we have. And I think this is these were really good examples, and I would like to thank again the speakers for this input. What we have left now to share is I'll try to share my screen again. Okay. It's basically the last slide of thanking all the attendees and reminding them that they will be sent a feedback form to complete, and it is important that you also use a forum of Circ ABC for sharing further discussions. And if you have any comments or other questions, you can contact the PES Network at the email given here at the bottom of the page. I would like again to thank everybody for participating, especially Angelica, Evelyn, and the PES Network team for the support. Thank you for active participation for the seminar. Just a short information from the organizers that the correct email is this one. At the end, eunot.com. So thank you again, everybody, and I hope that you enjoyed as much as I did. I hope that we will have more developments and sharing of good practices in terms of human resources and talent management in public employment services, because this is such an important service to the society that we would like it to be a role model for other public administration. Thank you again, and see you around. Bye-bye.